couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public. The public voted, we have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We won the House, we won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
The DOGE team is out to turn over every stone, and the dug-in Democrats are terrified. I'm Dagen McDowell. Joining me for the next couple of hours, my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Brian Brimberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and for this hour, Jerry Willis. Elon spent some time, eventful time, in the Oval Office with his son, X, and he is exposing the left-wing absurdity. Retirement paperwork processed by hand in a limestone mine from the 1800s. Check. 150-year-olds cash in Social Security checks. Got that. Bureaucrats with government salaries and a $100 million net worth. Yep, that too. Elon Musk ain't afraid to admit mistakes. He recently owned up to calling out a $50 million U.S.-funded condom program, only to realize it was in Mozambique, not Gaza.
I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it.
Meanwhile, as DOGE digs into the federal government's tangled rat's nest, Democrats unraveling, protesting at every threatened agency, threatening violence, and letting the F-bombs fly.
I say Trump.
I don't swear in public very well, but we have to Trump.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Oh, Lord have mercy on them. Today marks the first hearing of the House DOGE subcommittee, where several witnesses are outlining the government's history of improper payments and fraud. Let's head on down to D.C., where Hillary Vaughn has been following every word. She joins us now with the highlights. Hey, Hillary.
Hey, Dagen. Well, Democrats are tearing up the script. They've moved on from calling DOGE a constitutional crisis to now using four-letter words and talking about X-rated pictures.
Chairwoman Green literally showed a pic in our oversight congressional hearing, so I thought I'd bring one as well. Now, this, of course, we know.
Republicans say Democrats are going low because they can't defend the actual fraud being found.
I would hate to be in the Democratic Party right now because you're in a really bad bind. You're having to defend all of this crazy spending, all of this crazy waste. So how do you do it? You attack the messenger. Oh, Elon Musk, right? He's rich. He must be evil, right?
Says he is optimistic about the amount of fraud they have found. He thinks that the budget deficit alone can be cut in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion. Musk says this is not an optional endeavor. It's essential because America is spending more money than we have, racking up debt, quickly drowning in the interest on that debt. Musk is working on a makeover of the whole federal government to make it more efficient. One example of how archaic the system is how we process retirements. Everything is stored in a literal mine deep in the bowels of Pennsylvania, and because it's such a slow process, only so many federal employees can retire at a time, strictly due to processing time, and that's if the elevator in the mine shaft is working.
The speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal, and the elevator breaks down and then sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy?
And Dagen, there have been a lot of court challenges about the cuts that DOGE is making. President Trump said yesterday that he's totally fine with Congress doubling down on the cuts that DOGE has made to basically codify it into law. Dagen?
Thank you so much, Hillary Vaughn. I got the chance to catch some of that DOGE subcommittee hearing Taylor, I'm going to bring this to you. So that was Robert Garcia.
Just don't come to me on dick pics.
Well, I was just going to.
Well, that's a way to
Well, you said it. I was going to edit myself. I was going to say that Robert Garcia, the Democrat from California, called Elon Musk a Richard. That's how I was going to say it. But that's all that they have.
Southern girl.
That is all. The Democrats are literally fighting and fussing and screeching and suing. There have been 55 lawsuits over what DOGE is doing to keep Americans in the dark about where their money is.
So I, too, was watching that sub-hearing, as you are now all well aware.
You can borrow that.
And you know what's so funny is a lot of people on the right in that subcommittee hearing were saying when you are squealing instead of asking questions, which is what you're supposed to do when you have a witness, it shows that you're not here to get questions and answers. You're here to just squeal on how upset you are to talk about the lawsuits. There was a great Wall Street Journal op-ed that said Mr. Musk and his team may be seeing some confidential government data, but he's the second most closely observed person on this planet. That's the exact opposite of all the people before him who have been observing and accessing government data, and they stay invisible until, guess what? They turn out to be people like Edward Snowden. At least he's out in the public and doing it. And you know what Trump said? Is that in that subcommittee hearing, they were talking about Trump, and they said, it is so obvious on the campaign trail. Trump said, we're going to get Elon Musk and we're going to do DOGE. And guess what? People voted for it. This isn't a bait and switch. This was so out in the open. And people voted on it. It's crystal clear.
I'll just add to that. On the campaign trail, the Democrats wanted to say, and they love to say, that Trump was this threat to democracy. They've changed their narrative now. They're calling it a constitutional crisis. And ultimately, people give the executive branch their authority. 76 million people voted for Donald Trump. And as you said, he plainly disclosed to everybody before that election exactly what he was going to do. Right. When Elon Musk was in the Oval yesterday, he was talking about some of the changes, but he wasn't acting as an authority. He was speaking as an advisor. President Trump was sitting there. There are checks and balances. They talked about that. They talked about how mistakes might be made, but that they would quickly be transparent about it and they would try to correct them. He also talked about how Trump is restoring democracy, that what the Democrats are doing is creating a muddled, thick, cloudy, muddy bureaucracy. Right. And that's the state we've been living in for the last 4 years. People don't want to live there anymore, and they have spoken, but the Dems have nothing else to say.
Well, it's such a good point. Bureaucracy and democracy are antitheses, right? When bureaucracy grows, democracy shrinks. Trump is reversing that. Can we talk about the limestone mine for a second?
Yes.
So I'm fascinated. I would love to go down there and see it. Just architecturally, it must be interesting, but it is so dumb in terms of how to do business today. And here's the question. In 1950, probably made sense. Maybe in 1960 and 1970, it did too. Maybe 1980. But for at least 25 years, that cannot be the right way to do business. That's what people at home are saying. Why do we still do it this way? Why did it take Elon Musk to figure this out? That is DOGE in a nutshell. Why do we do it this way,
Digitize all of this stuff. You'll save a ton of dough, right? This was insane to hear them describe this. The other thing that was insane, oh, by the way, in that press conference, was Elon Musk, did he not look like a man who had seen a ghost? He was shocked and astonished at the record keeping in the Treasury Department.
Yeah. Right.
These are the people who were supposed to watch the economy for us. You would assume they know something about record keeping for bills. Unfortunately, they do not. They have nothing called categorization codes. So they're not making note of what bills are for, or even in some cases, who's getting paid. They're blank checks coming out of the Treasury. Nobody knows what's going on with this money. They try to keep a list of people who you're not supposed to pay, people who might be, say, crooks, but they never match that up with the bills that are being paid. It was astonishing listening to him talk.
In that subcommittee hearing, before we go, they were actually the witnesses were going over things that will really frighten the Democrats. Because what Musk is touching right now is just kind of and they always say this on Wall Street, low-hanging fruit.
I was just going to say that.
Right. But they were talking about the $1 trillion stolen during the pandemic, 70% of which went to overseas bad actors and criminals. They were talking about unemployment fraud, $250 billion stolen there, and then Medicaid. Because again, the Medicaid fraud, much of that goes to benefit the states.
Right.
The Democrats don't want any of that touch. And they always push back and say, oh, welfare and food stamps, there's no fraud there. My backside, there isn't. So again, if you think that they're going to lose their minds over the small stuff, you just wait until they start going after the trillions of dollars in fraud and abuse.
They love saying that the Republicans are going to kill Granny, but when you're allowing Medicaid fraud, you're killing Granny.
Absolutely right. You're diverting monies that should go to these big entitlement programs. Absolutely.
Yeah, $1 trillion over 10 years. One third out of every improper payment from the federal government is through Medicaid.